June 6, 1944, 5:30 hours, Pas-de-Calais. Oberst Heinrich Müller adjusts his binoculars and scans the empty horizon. Behind him, a Wehrmacht radio operator pounds out urgent Morse code. Herr Oberst! Massive landings reported at Normandy. Müller laughs. He actually laughs. Normandy? That's exactly what our agents said they'd want us to think. It's a diversion, nothing more. The real invasion comes here, but 200 miles southwest. 6 to 9:39 Allied vessels darken the waters off Normandy beach, and Heinrich Müller has just fallen for the most successful deception operation in military history. The Germans had laughed at Allied invasion plans because their own spies kept confirming Calais was the target. What they never knew was that every single one of their agents in Britain was feeding them lies. Grid reference 51 degrees 05 N, 1 degree 14 E, Dover, England, 3 months earlier. If you think this sounds impossible, drop Garbo in the comments and hit subscribe, because you're about to discover how 120 double agents convinced Nazi Germany to defend the wrong beach, while 156,000 Allied troops landed somewhere else entirely. The Nazis trusted their intelligence network completely. By May 1944, German High Command was receiving detailed reports from over 30 active agents across Britain. Each agent confirmed the same thing. The invasion would strike at Pas-de-Calais, the closest point to Britain, where logic dictated any sane commander would attack. There was just one problem. Every single agent was controlled by the British. Châtillon, the system they never suspected. March 15, 1944, 14:32 hours. Richmond Terrace, London. 27-year-old Juan Pujol Garcia sits in a cramped MI5 office, pecking at a wireless transmitter. To the Germans, he's Agent Arabelle, their most trusted spy in Britain. To the British, he's Garbo, the greatest double agent who ever lived. Weather report follows, he transmits. Rain expected Dover area next week, but Pujol isn't talking about weather. He's telling the Germans that the 1st U.S. Army Group, all 1.5 million men supposedly massing in Dover, will be ready to strike Calais within days. The message reaches Oberkommando der Wehrmacht at 14:33. By 14:34, German reinforcements are rushing toward Pas-de-Calais. The Germans never suspected that their entire British spy network was a fiction written by British intelligence. They called it the double-cross system, XX for short. Every German agent captured in Britain faced a choice: work for us or face execution. 120 chose to live. 0 were ever discovered by their former handlers. Lieutenant Colonel Tar Robertson runs the show from a modest office building. His filing cabinets contain the most dangerous secret of the war: complete control of German intelligence operations across the British Isles. Gentlemen, Robertson tells his team, we don't just run agents. We run the enemy's entire picture of reality. The scale defies belief. Operation Fortitude South creates a phantom 1st U.S. Army Group stationed in southeast England. On paper, it's the largest invasion force ever assembled, 50 divisions strong, commanded by General George Patton himself. In reality, it's rubber tanks, plywood landing craft, and radio operators transmitting fake orders 20 hours a day. But the rubber army needs real intelligence to make it credible. That's where the double agents shine. 14:45 hours. Hendon Aerodrome. Garbo's phantom sub-agent network spans Britain. Agent 4-3 reports tank movements from Winchester. Agent 7-7 confirms troop build-ups in Dover. Agent 2 observes amphibious training exercises in Scotland, exercises that never happened, reported by men who don't exist. The Germans eat it up. Abwehr Madrid cables Berlin, a rebel network providing invaluable intelligence on enemy preparations. Recommend highest decoration. What the Germans don't know is that Garbo employs 27 completely fictional sub-agents. His network includes a Welsh nationalist extremist, a communist dock worker, a Venezuelan student, 3 Indian poets, and a Swiss businessman's mistress. Every single one is a product of Juan Pujol's imagination, brought to life through meticulous fake correspondence and wireless traffic. March 22nd, 1944. Message intercept decoded at Bletchley Park. From Berlin to Madrid. Irabel intelligence confirms enemy concentrations southeast England. Advise all stations Calais sector maximum alert status. At that exact moment, the real invasion forces are training 300 miles away in southwest England, completely invisible to German reconnaissance. The deception runs deeper than fake armies. Mi-5 feeds the Germans a steady diet of true intelligence mixed with lies. Real bomber raids get reported accurately, building credibility for the fictional troop movements that follow. The ratio is precise, 80% truth, 20% lies that redirect the entire German war machine. The beauty, Robertson explains to a skeptical American OSS liaison, is that they trust us more than their own eyes. Case in point, when German reconnaissance flights occasionally photograph southern England, the images show exactly what the double agents have been reporting: vast military encampments stretching from Dover to Folkestone. What the cameras can't distinguish is that every tank is inflatable rubber, every landing craft is painted canvas, and every barracks is a movie set. March 28, 1944, 16:20 hours. Quicksilver Site B, Dover. Technical Sergeant Bob Hesketh unrolls another Sherman tank from its shipping crate. In 90 minutes, he and his team inflate 43 tanks using standard tire pumps. From 500 feet up, they're indistinguishable from the real thing. Craziest duty I ever pulled, Hesketh mutters, attaching fake radio antennas. Fighting Hitler with pool toys, but the pool toys are working. German aerial reconnaissance photographs catalogue hundreds of Allied armoured vehicles, precisely where Garbo's network said they'd be. The photos reach German intelligence at 16:23. By 17C, 3 additional panzer divisions are en route to Calais. The double-cross system doesn't just feed false information. It creates a complete alternate reality where every German assumption about Allied intentions appears to be confirmed by independent sources. When one double agent reports unusual activity in Dover, 2 others corroborate the story from different angles. When radio intercepts suggest a major operation is pending, German spies provide the exact details carefully crafted in London offices and transmitted from suburban safe houses. April 2nd, 1944, Checkpoint Charlie, Dover. Garbo transmits his most crucial message yet. Confirmation that General Patton has arrived to take command of the 1st U.S. Army Group. German intelligence celebrates. They've been tracking Patton since his controversial slapping incident in Sicily, and they know he's America's most aggressive field commander. His presence in Dover proves the invasion will hit Calais. They're half right. Patton is in England, but he's cooling his heels in a ceremonial command position, well aware that his real job is to look intimidating while standing next to inflatable tanks. The German response is immediate. 15th Panzer Regiment relocates from Normandy to Pas-de-Calais. The 716th Static Infantry Division digs new defensive positions facing Dover. Field Marshal Rommel personally inspects the Atlantic Wall fortifications between Calais and Boulogne, pronouncing them adequate to repel the Anglo-American adventure. By April 15th, German strength in the Calais sector has increased by 40%. In Normandy, the beaches that will soon echo with Allied gunfire, defences remain relatively light, exactly as Allied planners hoped. The numbers tell the story of the greatest intelligence coup in military history. 120 double agents, 27 completely fictional sub-agents, 1.5 million phantom soldiers, 0 German suspicions, and a 200-mile geographical misdirection that will determine the fate of Nazi Europe. But the real test is coming. In 6 weeks, 156,000 real Allied soldiers will hit real beaches defended by real German guns. The success or failure of the largest amphibious invasion in history hangs on whether the Germans continue believing their own spies who have been working for the enemy all along. Chapter 2. The Man Who Fooled Hitler. April 20th, 1944. Hitler's birthday. 09:15 hours. Henley-on-Thames Safe House. Juan Pujol Garcia sits at his kitchen table, composing the most important lie of his life. Outside, suburban London goes about its morning routine. Housewives hanging laundry, children walking to school, shopkeepers opening their stores. None of them know that the unassuming Spanish clerk in the terraced house at number 35 is about to deceive the entire German war machine. Pujol dips his fountain pen in blue ink and begins writing the report that will save thousands of Allied lives. "My dear friend," he begins, addressing his German handler in Madrid, "I have observed significant changes in the disposition of American forces throughout southeast England. You are Juan Pujol Garcia. You are 32 years old, a failed chicken farmer from Barcelona who speaks 4 languages and dreams of becoming a writer. You hate fascists of all flavors, Spanish, German or Italian, but you especially hate Adolf Hitler. In 1941, you walked into the British embassy in Madrid and offered to spy for the Allies. They turned you down, so you went to the Germans instead. The Abwehr recruits you enthusiastically. They christen you Agent Arabelle and dispatch you to London to establish a spy network. There's just one problem. You never go to London. You're sitting in a Lisbon hotel room, creating an entirely fictional intelligence network, using guidebooks, railway timetables, and your considerable imagination. Your first reports are disasters. You place a convoy in Glasgow when the port is fog-bound. You describe Scottish soldiers wearing kilts in training exercises, not knowing that kilts are strictly ceremonial wear. You report that Liverpool dock workers will do anything for a litre of wine, not knowing that Englishmen prefer beer. The Germans love every word. By early 1942, your reputation as Arabelle is so stellar that British intelligence finally approaches you. MI5 officer Thomas Harris meets you in Lisbon with a proposition. Come to London for real, keep feeding intelligence to the Germans, but work for us instead. You agree immediately. You've found your calling. April 20th, 1944, 09:32 hours. Now you're Garbo, the double-cross system's most prolific performer. Your fictional network has grown to epic proportions. You employ 27 imaginary sub-agents spread across Britain, each with detailed biographies, personal quirks, and political motivations. Agent 43 is a former communist-turned-Welsh nationalist operating from Harwich. You gave him a dead mother and a drinking problem. Agent 77 works as a waiter in a Brighton hotel frequented by military officers. He has stomach ulcers and complains constantly about his girlfriend. Agent 2 runs a grocery store in suburban London and belongs to the Brothers of the Aryan World Order, a completely fictional fascist organization you invented to explain his Nazi sympathies. Your masterpiece is Agent 5, a Venezuelan student studying in London. He's ambitious, naive, and absolutely committed to the German cause. He also doesn't exist, but his wireless operator does. That's you, using a different transmission style and a schedule to create the illusion of a completely separate person. The Germans are so impressed with your network that they pay you 340,000 pesetas, roughly $31,000 in 1944 dollars, to support your operations. You use the money to rent safe houses, purchase wireless equipment, and maintain the elaborate deception that keeps 30 Abwehr officers convinced they're running the most successful spy ring in British history. 09:45 hours. Wireless transmission begins. Personal observation confirms concentration. 1st U.S. Army Group Southeast Sector continues. You tap out in Morse code. Patton personally inspected 83rd Infantry Division, Margate area yesterday. Troops appear high morale, excellent equipment. The message is a complete fabrication. Patton was in London yesterday, attending a diplomatic reception. The 83rd Infantry Division is training in Devon, 200 miles southwest. Margate is crawling with nothing more dangerous than British holidaymakers and a few elderly ladies walking their dogs. But your report reaches Madrid at 09:47. By 10:15, it's on Admiral Canaris's desk in Berlin. By 11, German intelligence has updated its assessment of Allied invasion preparations. The Pas-de-Calais sector receives highest priority for reinforcement. The beauty of the system, MI5's Tar Robertson explains to American visitors, is that Garbo has created a completely believable alternate reality. The Germans don't just trust his information, they've built their entire defensive strategy around it. The alternate reality requires constant maintenance. When Agent 4-3 reports a fictional tank exercise near Dover, you have to remember to have Agent 7-7 corroborate the story 2 days later, tanks passing through Brighton, just as 4-3 predicted. When Agent 2 describes unusual activity at a London railway station, you ensure that Agent 5 independently observes American officers purchasing large quantities of ordnance survey maps for the Calais area. Every detail must be consistent. Every lie must support every other lie. And every piece of fiction must feel more authentic than reality itself. April 25, 1944. Coded message from Madrid. Congratulations on excellent reports. Berlin particularly satisfied with intelligence. Regarding First Army Group dispositions, continue present operations. Highest priority, your network. Invaluable to Reich security. You've done it. The Germans trust your fictional network more than their own reconnaissance aircraft. They're so confident in your intelligence that they've stopped questioning obvious inconsistencies in Allied behavior. When British newspapers accidentally print accurate information about troop movements, German intelligence dismisses the reports as disinformation, because Garbo's network provides the real story. The psychological dimension runs deeper than deception. You've convinced 30 different German intelligence officers that they personally recruited and developed the most successful spy ring in wartime history. Their careers depend on your success. Their reputations rise with every one of your reports. They have every incentive to believe you and every reason to reject contradictory evidence. It's the perfect intelligence trap. The more successful you appear, the more desperately they need you to be telling the truth. May 3rd, 1944, 14:20 hours. Final network update. Your Phantom Army is complete. Agent 4-3 reports the 28th Infantry Division fully equipped and conducting final exercises. Agent 7-7 confirms naval units assembling in Dover Harbor. Agent 2 describes unprecedented fuel and ammunition stockpiling. Agent 5 provides detailed coordinates for Allied artillery positions, all aimed directly at Pas-de-Calais. The Germans respond exactly as predicted. The 15th Army, Germany's strongest defensive force in France, repositions to cover the 200-mile stretch from Antwerp to Le Havre. Pas-de-Calais receives priority for coastal artillery, tank obstacles, and underwater mines. Field Marshal von Rundstedt personally declares the sector impregnable against amphibious assault. 200 miles away, the real Allied invasion force makes final preparations for an assault on lightly defended Normandy beaches. But your work isn't finished. The most dangerous moment lies ahead. On June 6th, when Allied forces actually land in Normandy, you must convince the Germans that it's still just a diversion, that the real invasion, the one your network has been tracking for months, is still coming at Calais. The fate of Operation Overlord, and possibly the entire European war, depends on whether one Spanish chicken farmer can keep lying convincingly enough to fool Adolf Hitler himself. Time check. 1433. Grid reference updated 5107N 119E Dover Castle Observation Post. The endgame begins now. Chapter 3. The Numbers That Crushed Doubt. May 15th, 1944, 11:47 hours. Combined Operations Headquarters, London. Colonel David Strangeways spreads aerial reconnaissance photographs across a mahogany table. Brigadier Dudley Clark leans forward, counting inflatable Sherman tanks arranged in perfect formation near Dover Castle. 43 Shermans, 16 Churchill tanks, 22 anti-aircraft guns, Strangeways reports. All operational as of yesterday's inflation schedule. And the German count? Clark asks. Luftwaffe reconnaissance photographed 45 Shermans, 18 Churchills, 24 guns. Close enough to maintain credibility. The numbers that will decide D-Day aren't measured in real divisions or actual landing craft. They're calculated in cubic feet of compressed air, square yards of painted canvas, and the precise mathematics of deception that convinced 300,000 German soldiers to defend the wrong coastline. Operation Fortitude South deploys deception on an industrial scale. The Phantom 1st U.S. Army Group requires 1.5 million fictional soldiers, organized into 12 non-existent divisions spread across 200 miles of English countryside. Supporting this invisible army demands 1,100 inflatable tanks, 400 dummy aircraft, 300 fake landing craft, and 150 fabricated radio transmitters broadcasting 24 hours of simulated military traffic. But raw numbers mean nothing without context. One inflatable Sherman tank costs $240 to manufacture and deploy. One real Sherman costs $33,000. The entire Quicksilver deception operation, rubber tanks, plywood aircraft, canvas trucks and all, runs to roughly $380,000. That's the price of 12 genuine M4 Shermans. For the cost of one tank company, the Allies have created an entire Phantom Army group. It's the most cost-effective military operation in history, Colonel Strangeways explains to skeptical American observers. We're tying down 15 German divisions with circus equipment and party balloons. The circus equipment works because it exploits specific limitations in German reconnaissance capabilities. Luftwaffe aerial photography operates from minimum altitudes of 500 feet, high enough that rubber tanks are indistinguishable from steel ones, but low enough that careful staging creates convincing military tableau. May 18, 1944. Challock Airfield, Kent. Flight Sergeant Tommy Morrison inflates the fuselage of a Supermarine Spitfire using a standard bicycle pump. 43 minutes later, he's created a fighter aircraft that will fool German cameras from any altitude above 300 feet. "Damnedest thing," Morrison mutters, attaching fabric control surfaces. "Fighting Jerry with a balloon animal." The balloon animal is part of a complete fictional airbase hosting 97 dummy aircraft. German intelligence photographs show a frontline fighter wing ready to provide air cover for the Calais invasion. In reality, Challock hosts 2 mechanics, a wireless operator, and enough canvas to outfit a traveling circus. But the deception requires more than visual props. Real military bases generate specific signatures that German intelligence trained to recognize. Radio traffic patterns, fuel deliveries, personnel movements, waste disposal, and electromagnetic emissions from radar installations. Every fictional base must reproduce these signatures precisely. Technical wizardry fills the gaps. American OSS technicians install automated radio transmitters that broadcast convincing military chatter 18 hours per day. British Royal Engineers lay genuine fuel pipelines to supply non-existent aircraft. Local contractors make scheduled deliveries of authentic military rations to feed soldiers who don't exist. The Germans never question why they can photograph tanks, but never observe them moving. They never wonder why radio intercepts indicate constant activity at bases that appear static in aerial reconnaissance. They trust their own intelligence system so completely that obvious inconsistencies become proof of Allied security measures. May 22, 1944, 13:15 hours. Wireless Interceptstation Pas-de-Calais. Obergefreiter Klaus Weber adjusts his radio headset and transcribes another burst of Allied military traffic. The Americans are sloppy with communication security. Their operators chat constantly about equipment problems, supply shortages, and personal complaints that reveal precise unit dispositions. 1st Armoured's wireless section reports track problems with 17 Shermans, Weber notes in his intercept log. Requesting priority parts, shipment from depot at Ashford. What Weber doesn't know is that he's transcribing a conversation between 2 British actors in a London studio. The track problems are completely fictional. The 17 Shermans are rubber balloons, and the depot at Ashford is a single Quonset hut containing spare bicycle pumps and tyre repair kits. But Reber's report joins thousands of similar intercepts that create a comprehensive picture of American military preparations in southeast England. German intelligence analysts combine radio traffic with aerial photography and spy reports to produce intelligence estimates of devastating accuracy and complete falsehood. The radio deception alone involves 47 separate transmitters broadcasting from 17 locations across Kent and Essex. Each transmitter maintains consistent operating patterns that suggest specific military units. The fictional 7th Armoured Division checks in every morning at 08:30 with supply requests and training updates. The non-existent 12th Infantry Regiment reports nightly status updates that track imaginary personnel rotations and equipment maintenance. Maintaining this electronic charade requires military precision. Broadcasting schedules must remain consistent. Fictional personalities must display believable quirks and concerns. Equipment problems, weather delays, and administrative complaints must feel authentically American. The psychological operation runs even deeper. British intelligence deliberately allows German agents to discover classified documents that confirm radio intelligence. Garbo's network provides corroborating evidence for every major deception theme. German faith in their own intelligence collection creates an echo chamber, where lies reinforce lies until fiction becomes indistinguishable from reality. Numbers demonstrate the operation's devastating effectiveness. By May 30th, German forces defending Pas-de-Calais have increased to 245,000 men, roughly equal to the entire Allied assault force preparing to hit Normandy. The 15th Army, Germany's most powerful defensive unit in Western Europe, positions itself to repel an invasion that exists only in British imaginations. Meanwhile, Normandy's defenders number fewer than 90,000 men spread across 60 miles of coastline. German reserves remain concentrated 200 miles northeast, waiting for the real invasion that will never come. May 28, 1944, final equipment count, Operation Quicksilver. The Phantom Army is complete. 100 inflatable tanks stand ready for inspection. 400 dummy aircraft crowd 17 fictional airfields. 300 fake landing craft bob at anchor in Dover Harbour. 2,000 British and American personnel maintain the illusion 24 hours per day. The total cost, $618,000 in equipment, facilities and personnel. That's roughly equivalent to 2 squadrons of genuine Supermarine Spitfires. For the price of 24 fighter aircraft, the Allies have convinced Germany to position its strongest army to defend against an attack that will never happen. It's military deception on a scale never attempted before and never equaled since. But the ultimate test approaches. In 9 days, 156,000 real soldiers will storm real beaches defended by real bullets. The success of Operation Overlord, and perhaps the outcome of World War II itself, depends on whether rubber tanks and radio actors can continue fooling the Wehrmacht's best intelligence officers. Time check 1333, grid coordinates 50 8N, 1 24E. Situation report, deception operations nominal. All stations maintaining fictional baseline. The greatest gamble in military history is about to begin. Chapter 4. When the enemy realized nothing made sense. June 6, 1944, 06:42 hours. Oberkommando West, Saint-Germain-en-Laye. General Lieutenant Bodo Zimmermann stares at the operations map with growing confusion. Red pins mark confirmed Allied landings across 60 miles of Norman coastline. Blue pins show the massive invasion fleet that materialized overnight off beaches that German intelligence considered secondary targets. "It makes no sense, sir," Zimmermann tells Field Marshal von Rundstedt. Every indication pointed to Pas-de-Calais. Every agent confirmed Dover as the staging area. Patton himself was observed preparing the First Army Group for the Channel crossing. Von Rundstedt removes his reading glasses and studies the tactical display. Perhaps it's exactly what it appears to be, Zimmerman. A diversion involving 6,000 ships, sir. The Anglo-Americans have resources to spare. Mark my words, the real invasion comes at Calais within 48 hours. But von Rundstedt's certainty masks growing anxiety. German doctrine assumes that successful deception operations exploit enemy weaknesses, not strengths. The Allies have just demonstrated overwhelming naval superiority, tactical surprise, and operational security that kept the entire invasion secret until the moment of attack. If this is a diversion, what does the real thing look like? 06:55 hours. Abwehrstation Madrid. Major Friedrich Knapper decodes the morning intelligence summary from his most trusted British network. Agent Arabelle's report is characteristically precise. Personal observation confirms First Army Group maintaining Dover positions despite Normandy. Operations pattern reportedly furious at being excluded from initial assault. Second wave preparations. Continue southeast sector, Knapper. Forwards the report to Berlin with highest confidence ratings. Arabelle has never provided false information. His network spans all of Britain, employs 30 proven agents, and has demonstrated consistent accuracy for over 2 years. If Arabelle says Calais remains the primary target, then Normandy is definitely a diversion. What Knapper doesn't know is that Juan Pujol Garcia is typing the most crucial lie of his career in a suburban London safe house, desperately trying to keep the Germans fixated on their original assumptions, long enough for Allied forces to establish an unbreakable foothold in France. 07:20 hours. Wehrmacht communication intercept. German signals intelligence detects massive radio traffic from the Dover area, exactly the electronic signature expected from a major military headquarters coordinating complex amphibious operations. The intercepts confirm that First Army Group remains at full strength and highest readiness. The radio transmissions are completely fabricated, broadcast by 3 British operators using pre-written scripts and sound effects records. But German analysts have no reason to suspect deception. Radio intercepts provide the most reliable intelligence available, immune to visual camouflage and human deception. The combination of agent reports and signals intelligence creates unshakable German confidence that the real invasion is still coming. Normandy might be massive by historical standards, but it's clearly preliminary to an even larger operation targeting the most logical invasion corridor in Western Europe. 7:45 hours. Luftwaffe reconnaissance mission, Channel Patrol. Hauptmann Werner Mulder's banks, his Focke-Wulf 190 over Dover Harbour, and photographs the largest concentration of landing craft in European waters. His cameras record 300 invasion vessels, dozens of troop transports, and fuel facilities capable of supporting amphibious operations across the entire channel. Every vessel is plywood and canvas. Every facility is movie set construction. Every indication of military preparation is theatre designed to reinforce German preconceptions. But Mulder's photographs provide visual confirmation of everything German intelligence already believes. The evidence is overwhelming, consistent, and completely false. 02 hours. Crisis Conference, Army Group B headquarters. Field Marshal Rommel faces the most critical decision of his career. Allied forces are establishing beachheads in Normandy with unexpected strength and sophisticated coordination. But German intelligence unanimously confirms that Pas-de-Calais remains the primary objective. Moving reserves from Calais to Normandy might hand the Allies their real prize, the shortest invasion route to the German heartland. The enemy is cunning, Rommel tells his staff officers. This Normandy operation may be larger than anticipated, but it's designed to draw our reserves away from the decisive sector. We maintain current dispositions until the situation clarifies. The decision dooms German resistance in Normandy. The 15th Army, Germany's strongest defensive force, remains locked in position 200 miles northeast of the actual battle, waiting for an invasion that exists only in the imaginations of British intelligence officers. But from Rommel's perspective, the decision is tactically sound. Every piece of intelligence confirms Calais as the logical target. Moving reserves based on preliminary contact reports would violate basic military principles. The Allies must be trying to trick him into weakening his strongest positions. He's absolutely right and completely wrong. 9:30 hours. Abwehr Analysis Section, Berlin. Oberst Johann Jebsen reviews intelligence from all sources and reaches an unavoidable conclusion. The Allies are conducting the most sophisticated deception operation in military history. But their target is German reserve positioning, not strategic objectives. They want us to reinforce Normandy, Jebsen explains to Admiral Canaris. Every indication suggests they've accepted heavy casualties to establish a foothold that will draw our mobile reserves away from Calais. Once we commit to Normandy, they launch the decisive assault where we're weakest. Canaris nods approvingly. Clever. Expensive, but clever. How do you assess our current intelligence picture? Excellent, sir. Arabelle's network provides real-time confirmation that enemy preparations continue in the Dover sector. The Normandy landings appear successful precisely because they're designed to appear successful. The enemy accepts tactical losses to achieve strategic deception. It's the most sophisticated intelligence analysis of the war, and completely backwards. German intelligence has become so invested in their own assumptions that contradictory evidence automatically transforms into confirmation of those assumptions. 10:15 hours. Wireless message from Agent Arabelle. Urgent. First Army Group received movement orders. 800 today. Patton personally briefing divisional. Commanders. Operation appears imminent. Estimate. Channel crossing within 72 hours. Maximum request. Immediate confirmation of reception. The message electrifies. German command structure. Arabelle has provided the missing piece, confirmation that Normandy is preliminary to the main event. Patton's First Army Group, the largest invasion force ever assembled, will strike Calais within 3 days. German reserves remain frozen in place. The 15th Army maintains maximum alert status. Coastal fortifications receive priority for ammunition and reinforcement. Every available resource focuses on repelling the invasion that isn't coming, while ignoring the invasion that's already succeeded. Juan Pujol Garcia has just achieved the impossible, convincing the German High Command that their greatest defeat is actually elaborate preparation for their greatest victory. 11 hours. Final German assessment. Wehrmacht intelligence issues its definitive analysis of Allied intentions. Normandy operations designed to establish secondary beachhead and draw German reserves from primary objective. Enemy accepts heavy casualties to achieve strategic deception. Main assault estimated Pas de Calais sector within 72 hours. Recommend maintaining current dispositions, pending clarification of enemy intentions. The assessment reaches Hitler's headquarters at 11:17. Der Führer personally endorses the analysis and orders continued focus on Calais defenses. The 15th Army, 250,000 of Germany's best soldiers, will spend the next 7 weeks waiting for an invasion that will never come, while Allied forces in Normandy break out across France and race toward Germany itself. Time check 11:33. Grid reference 49D-1N, 0D-2W, Normandy beachhead expanding. German response minimal. Calais sector, maximum alert, zero contact. The greatest deception in military history has succeeded beyond all expectations, and the Germans still don't know they've been fooled. Chapter 5. The moment they realized the truth. July 25, 1944, 16:20 hours. Oberkommando West, Saint-Germain-en-Laye. Generaloberst Heinz Guderian sets down the reconnaissance report and removes his spectacles. For the first time in 7 weeks, aerial photography shows Dover Harbor completely empty of invasion craft. The massive fleet that dominated German intelligence estimates has simply vanished. When did this happen? He asks his intelligence chief. The photographs are from yesterday, sir. But given cloud cover, the vessels could have dispersed any time in the past week. Guderian studies the tactical map, where red pins mark Allied advances across Normandy. American forces have broken through at St. Lo. British armoured columns are racing toward Falaise. The secondary invasion has become the primary threat to the entire Western Front. And First Army Group? No reliable intelligence since July 12th, sir. Agent Arabelle reports communication difficulties. Radio intercepts have ceased. Dover appears inactive. The word hangs in the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. Inactive. 7 weeks after the largest military deception in history began, a German general is finally asking the right questions. But it's far too late for answers to matter. 16:45 hours. Abwehrstation Madrid. Major Friedrich Knapper decodes what will become the final transmission from his most trusted British agent. Juan Pujol Garcia's message is characteristically detailed. Network security compromised by Allied counterintelligence. Suspending operations indefinitely. Recommend highest caution all British-based sources. Knapper forwards. The message to Berlin with growing unease. Arabelle's network has provided intelligence that shaped German strategy for over 2 years. If the British have identified his agents, how much of German planning has been compromised? The answer is simple, all of it. But Knapper will never learn the truth. Juan Pujol Garcia has played his final role in the greatest intelligence deception ever mounted. Garbeau is officially retired, his mission complete, and Germany in full retreat across France. 17:30 hours. Crisis assessment. Army Group B. Field Marshal von Rundstedt faces the bitter mathematics of military disaster. Allied forces in Normandy number over 875,000 men, supported by complete air superiority and unlimited naval gunfire. German defenders have been reduced to fewer than 240,000 combat-effective soldiers, with minimal air cover and dwindling ammunition supplies. Meanwhile, the 15th Army, 250,000 of Germany's finest troops, remains positioned along Pas-de-Calais, waiting for an invasion that clearly isn't coming. How long, von Rundstedt asks his staff, have we been defending against phantoms? The question receives no answer because no one wants to voice the obvious conclusion. Germany's entire defensive strategy in Western Europe has been based on intelligence provided by British-controlled agents. Every major decision, every troop deployment, every resource allocation has been influenced by lies carefully crafted in London offices and transmitted from suburban safe houses. The scale of the deception defies comprehension. 120 double agents, 27 completely fictional sub-agents, 1.5 million phantom soldiers, 0 German suspicions until the moment of irreversible defeat. 18:15 hours. Luftwaffe Intelligence Review. Oberst Hans Speidel reviews 7 weeks of aerial reconnaissance photographs from Dover and reaches an unavoidable conclusion. The massive military buildup that dominated German intelligence estimates was largely theatrical. Genuine military installations show specific wear patterns, traffic flows, and maintenance activities that distinguish real bases from elaborate fakes. Dover's installations show none of these characteristics. The tank parks never change configuration. The aircraft never move. The fuel depots show no evidence of actual consumption. What German intelligence interpreted as exceptional security measures was actually evidence of complete falsification. We've been photographing a movie set, Speidel reports to his superiors. The Americans built themselves a rubber army, and we fell for it completely. But recognizing the deception doesn't solve the immediate crisis. Allied forces are advancing across France with unstoppable momentum, while Germany's strongest reserves remain trapped by their own misconceptions, locked in defensive positions along a coastline that will never see invasion. 19:06 hours, final wireless transmission, Agent Garbeau network. Juan Pujol Garcia types his last message as Arabelle. the most successful double agent in intelligence history. His fictional network has provided intelligence that misdirected 300,000 German soldiers during the most critical phase of World War II. Now, the network must die convincingly, its cover blown by Allied security services that never existed. Farewell. Network terminated. Long live Germany. The message reaches Madrid at 1903. By 1930, German intelligence has lost its most valuable source of British intelligence. The timing appears tragically coincidental. Arabelle's exposure, coming just as his intelligence would be most crucial for understanding Allied intentions. In reality, the timing is perfect. Garbo has completed his mission. The Phantom First Army Group has served its purpose. And Juan Pujol Garcia can finally stop pretending to be a Nazi spy and return to his quiet life as a suburban London resident who helped change the course of history. July 28, 1944, 14:20 hours. Post-action analysis combined operations. Colonel David Strangeways reviews Operation Fortitude's final statistics with quiet satisfaction. The deception operation achieved every major objective at minimal cost and maximum effectiveness. Strategic objectives accomplished. German reserves misdirected during critical phase of Normandy invasion. Tactical surprise maintained for 72 hours after initial landings. Allied casualties reduced by an estimated 15,000, 20,000 men through dispersed German defensive efforts. Cost analysis, $618,000 in equipment and personnel, equivalent to 2 squadrons of fighter aircraft. Return on investment, immeasurable. Gentlemen, Strangeways tells his staff, we've just concluded the most cost-effective military operation in recorded history. We tied down 15 German divisions using party balloons and radioactors. The numbers support his assessment. For less than $1 million, Operation Fortitude neutralized German forces worth over $500 million in equipment, training, and operational capability. The Phantom First Army Group accomplished more than many real army groups at a fraction of the cost. But the operation's true value transcends mathematics. Fortitude demonstrated that information warfare could achieve strategic objectives impossible through conventional military action. Deception operations would influence military planning for decades to come. August 15, 1944, 11:45 hours. Wehrmacht final assessment. General Lieutenant Adolf Heusinger submits Germany's official analysis of Allied deception operations to the High Command. His report acknowledges the complete failure of German intelligence services and the devastating effectiveness of British psychological warfare. The enemy achieved strategic surprise through systematic exploitation of our intelligence collection methods, Heusinger writes. Every source we trusted was controlled by British intelligence. Every assumption we made was anticipated and exploited. Every decision we considered logical was exactly what the enemy wanted us to decide. The report recommends complete restructuring of German intelligence operations, but the recommendations are academic. By August 1944, Germany lacks the time, resources, and personnel to rebuild intelligence capabilities from scratch. The war will be decided by conventional military forces, and Germany is losing on every front. Heusinger's final conclusion carries bitter irony. The British achieved with deception what we could not achieve with force, complete control of enemy decision-making processes. They fought us not with superior weapons, but with superior information. And information, as we have learned too late, is the most powerful weapon of all. September 1st, 1944. Personal diary entry, Juan Pujol Garcia. Today, I received official thanks from the British government for services to Allied victory. They cannot say publicly what I did, but they know. I helped fool Hitler himself into defending the wrong beach while real soldiers died for real freedom on the right one. I was a chicken farmer from Barcelona who wanted to help stop fascism. I never fired a shot, never flew a plane, never sailed with the invasion fleet. But I helped win the war with nothing more dangerous than lies, carefully crafted and precisely delivered. They gave me an MBE, Member of the Order of the British Empire. What they don't know is that the Germans also decorated me the Iron Cross for exceptional service to the Reich. I'm probably the only man in history to receive military honors from both sides of the same war. I think I prefer the British medal. At least they knew I was lying. September 15th, 1944. Final German acknowledgement. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, former head of the Abwehr, writes his final intelligence assessment before facing execution for his role in the July 20th plot against Hitler. His report represents Germany's most honest evaluation of Allied intelligence operations. We were comprehensively outmatched in every aspect of the intelligence war, Canaris concludes. The British controlled our agents, anticipated our decisions, and exploited our logical thinking processes. They convinced us that our greatest strength, rational military analysis, was actually our greatest vulnerability. They won the war not by fighting harder, but by thinking better, and by making us believe that their lies were more credible than our own eyes. Canaris will not live to see Germany's surrender, but his assessment stands as epitaph for the intelligence war. Germany lost not because their spies were incompetent, but because their enemies were impossibly clever. Time check 1533, grid reference 51-30N 0D10W, London, England. Mission accomplished. The man who fooled Hitler has returned to civilian life. The Phantom Army has been dismantled. The greatest deception in military history is officially complete. And Adolf Hitler never learned that he spent the most critical months of World War II defending against an invasion force that existed only in British imaginations. Long, von Rundstedt asks his staff, have we been defending against phantoms? The question receives no answer because no one wants to voice the obvious conclusion. Germany's entire defensive strategy in Western Europe has been based on intelligence provided by British-controlled agents. Every major decision, every troop deployment, every resource allocation has been influenced by lies carefully crafted in London offices and transmitted from suburban safe houses. The scale of the deception defies comprehension. 120 double agents, 27 completely fictional sub-agents, 1.5 million phantom soldiers, 0 German suspicions until the moment of irreversible defeat. 1815 hours. Luftwaffe Intelligence Review. Oberst Hans Speidel reviews 7 weeks of aerial reconnaissance photographs from Dover and reaches an unavoidable conclusion. The massive military build-up that dominated German intelligence estimates was largely theatrical. Genuine military installations show specific wear patterns, traffic flows, and maintenance activities that distinguish real bases from elaborate fakes. Dover's installations show none of these characteristics. The tank parks never change configuration. The aircraft never move. The fuel depots show no evidence of actual consumption. What German intelligence interpreted as exceptional security measures was actually evidence of complete falsification. We've been photographing a movie set, Speidel reports to his superiors. The Americans built themselves a rubber army, and we fell for it completely. But recognizing the deception doesn't solve the immediate crisis. Allied forces are advancing across France with unstoppable momentum, while Germany's strongest reserves remain trapped by their own misconceptions, locked in defensive positions along a coastline that will never see invasion. 19 hours. Final wireless transmission, Agent Garbo network. Juan Puyol Garcia types his last message as Arabelle, the most successful double agent in intelligence history. His fictional network has provided intelligence that misdirected 300,000 German soldiers during the most critical phase of World War II. Now the network must die convincingly, its cover blown by Allied security services that never existed. Farewell, network terminated. Long live Germany. The message reaches Madrid at 1903. By 1930, German intelligence has lost its most valuable source of British intelligence. The timing appears tragically coincidental, Arabelle's exposure coming just as his intelligence would be most crucial for understanding Allied intentions. In reality, the timing is perfect. Garbo has completed his mission. The Phantom First Army Group has served its purpose. And Juan Pujol Garcia can finally stop pretending to be a Nazi spy and return to his quiet life as a suburban London resident who helped change the course of history. July 28, 1944, 14:20 hours. Post-action analysis, combined operations. Colonel David Strangeways reviews Operation Fortitude's final statistics with quiet satisfaction. The deception operation achieved every major objective at minimal cost and maximum effectiveness. Strategic objectives accomplished. German reserves misdirected during critical phase of Normandy invasion. Tactical surprise maintained for 72 hours after initial landings. Allied casualties reduced by an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 men through dispersed German defensive efforts. Cost analysis, 6 and 18,000 in equipment and personnel, equivalent to 2 squadrons of fighter aircraft. Return on investment, immeasurable. Gentlemen, Strangeways tells his staff, we've just concluded the most cost-effective military operation in recorded history. We tied down 15 German divisions using party balloons and radio actors. The numbers support his assessment. For less than $1 million, Operation Fortitude neutralized German forces worth over $500 million in equipment, training, and operational capability. The Phantom First Army Group accomplished more than many real army groups at a fraction of the cost. But the operation's true value transcends mathematics. Fortitude demonstrated that information warfare could achieve strategic objectives impossible through conventional military action. Deception operations would influence military planning for decades to come. August 15, 1944, 11:45 hours. Wehrmacht final assessment. General Lieutenant Adolf Heusinger submits Germany's official analysis of Allied deception operations to the High Command. His report acknowledges the complete failure of German intelligence services and the devastating effectiveness of British psychological warfare. The enemy achieved strategic surprise through systematic exploitation of our intelligence collection methods, Heusinger writes. Every source we trusted was controlled by British intelligence. Every assumption we made was anticipated and exploited. Every decision we considered logical was exactly what the enemy wanted us to decide. The report recommends complete restructuring of German intelligence operations, but the recommendations are academic. By August 1944, Germany lacks the time, resources, and personnel to rebuild intelligence capabilities from scratch. The war will be decided by conventional military forces, and Germany is losing on every front. Heusinger's final conclusion carries bitter irony. The British achieved with deception what we could not achieve with force, complete control of enemy decision-making processes. They fought us not with superior weapons, but with superior information. And information, as we have learned too late, is the most powerful weapon of all. September 1st, 1944. Personal diary entry, Juan Pujol Garcia. Today, I received official thanks from the British government for services to Allied victory. They cannot say publicly what I did, but they know. I helped fool Hitler himself into defending the wrong beach, while real soldiers died for real freedom on the right one. I was a chicken farmer from Barcelona who wanted to help stop fascism. I never fired a shot, never flew a plane, never sailed with the invasion fleet. But I helped win the war with nothing more dangerous than lies, carefully crafted and precisely delivered. They gave me an MBE, Member of the Order of the British Empire. What they don't know is that the Germans also decorated me. The Iron Cross, for exceptional service to the Reich. I am probably the only man in history to receive military honors from both sides of the same war. I think I prefer the British medal. At least they knew I was lying. September 15th, 1944. Final German acknowledgement. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, former head of the Abwehr, writes his final intelligence assessment before facing execution for his role in the July 20th plot against Hitler. His report represents Germany's most honest evaluation of Allied intelligence operations. "We were comprehensively outmatched in every aspect of the intelligence war," Canaris concludes. "The British controlled our agents, anticipated our decisions, and exploited our logical thinking processes. They convinced us that our greatest strength, rational military analysis, was actually our greatest vulnerability. They won the war not by fighting harder but by thinking better, and by making us believe that their lies were more credible than our own eyes." Canaris will not live to see Germany's surrender, but his assessment stands as epitaph for the intelligence war. Germany lost not because their spies were incompetent, but because their enemies were impossibly clever. Time check 1533. Grid reference 51 Sati 30 Den 0 degree 10W. London, England. Mission accomplished. The man who fooled Hitler has returned to civilian life. The Phantom Army has been dismantled. The greatest deception in military history is officially complete. And Adolf Hitler never learned that he spent the most critical months of World War II defending against an invasion force that existed only in British imaginations. Epilogue: the lesson that outlasted the war. December 7th, 1944, 6 months after D-Day. War Crimes Investigation Unit, London. Intelligence Officer Captain James Robertson reviews captured German documents with growing amazement. Wehrmacht communications from July 1944 reveal that German commanders continued expecting a Calais invasion weeks after Allied forces had clearly committed their entire strength to Normandy. "They never figured it out," Robertson tells his colleagues. "Even when the evidence was overwhelming, they kept believing their own intelligence estimates. Right up until the moment we were racing across France toward Germany itself." The captured documents tell an extraordinary story of institutional delusion. German intelligence services produced thousands of pages of analysis explaining why Normandy was a diversion, why Calais remained the logical target, and why Allied behavior confirmed German expectations. Every piece of evidence was interpreted to support pre-existing conclusions. It was the perfect intelligence trap. The more desperately Germans needed their assumptions to be correct, the more convinced they became that contradictory evidence was actually proof of Allied deception. Information warfare, Robertson concludes, isn't about providing false information. It's about providing information that confirms what the enemy already wants to believe. January 15th, 1945. Post-war planning conference, combined intelligence. The success of Operation Fortitude influences Allied planning for post-war intelligence operations. If one man with a wireless transmitter could misdirect 300,000 enemy soldiers, what could systematic deception accomplish during peacetime? The answer will shape the Cold War for the next 45 years. Intelligence agencies on both sides will spend billions of dollars trying to recreate Juan Pujol Garcia's achievement: complete control of enemy decision-making through carefully crafted lies. But none will succeed quite so dramatically. Garbo's achievement was unique, requiring specific conditions that could never be perfectly replicated: institutional overconfidence, logical assumptions that weren't quite logical enough, and enemies who trusted their own intelligence services more than their own eyes. May 8th, 1945, Victory in Europe Day. Juan Pujol Garcia walks through the streets of London, watching crowds celebrate Germany's surrender. Few people recognize the quiet Spanish man who helped make this moment possible. His contribution will remain classified for decades, his story known only to a handful of intelligence professionals who understand what he accomplished. But Garcia knows the truth. One man's imagination defeated the Wehrmacht's best intelligence officers. Fiction proved more powerful than fact, and the greatest military deception in history succeeded because it told the enemy exactly what they expected to hear. The lesson transcends military history. In a world of overwhelming information, people believe what confirms their assumptions and reject what challenges their preconceptions. Truth and falsehood matter less than credibility and consistency. Reality is whatever seems most plausible to those making decisions. Garcia helped win World War II by understanding this fundamental truth about human nature. The Germans lost because they never learned it. Years later, when Garcia's story finally becomes public, military historians will debate whether his achievement was genius or luck, whether the Germans were foolish or simply human. But the numbers speak for themselves. 120 double agents, 0 discovered. 1.5 million phantom soldiers, completely convincing. One Spanish chicken farmer, world-changing impact. They laughed at the Allied invasion plans because their most trusted spies confirmed every German assumption about where logic demanded the attack must come. What they never knew was that every single spy was working for the other side, and logic itself had become a weapon in British hands. The greatest intelligence deception in history succeeded not by fighting German assumptions, but by feeding them exactly what they wanted to hear. And the man who changed the course of World War II did it all with nothing more dangerous than a wireless transmitter and the most powerful weapon ever devised. A really convincing lie. Want to discover how the Allies cracked Germany's unbreakable Enigma code using captured submarines and mathematical genius? Subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the secret intelligence war that decided World War II. The truth is often stranger than fiction, but sometimes, as Juan Pujol Garcia proved, fiction is more powerful than truth. If you think intelligence warfare sounds impossible to believe, share this with a history friend who needs to know that the greatest battles are sometimes fought with information instead of ammunition. And if you learned something new about how 120 double agents convinced Nazi Germany to defend the wrong beach, hit that subscribe button. Because history's greatest secrets are often hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone clever enough to turn lies into victory.